So here's my Coleman CT200 EX. Here's the original bike, practically stock. We threw some nice clean hand guards on it so that when you crash, your hands don't actually get hit. Broke off the light because it's endowed a couple times. Got some restricting chains so that the shock tubes don't fall out. On a couple of my old race bikes, the entire front end would fall off. But as you see, this has a lot of play in it. Because there's two small bearings in here that you'll blow out as soon as you start jumping or anything on this mini bike. Which they blow out, which becomes a massive issue. So I had to cut off my entire front cross member on this bike, weld it down lower, and drill it out to, I think it's 5/8 I drilled it out to, and basically make a custom 5/8 bolt from a piece of solid rod, and then just put a little cap on it. I got a little 1/4-inch bolt at the bottom as basically a cotter key, because if you don't use the actual bolt and you use a cotter key, this plate will get sucked down after you go through a ton of bumps, and you need a real bolt down there or else that all gets bad. I am currently running some different force, as you can tell, because these are the stock ones. You get about that much travel or up there, so a decent amount. Mine go to there. I just greased them, that's why there's a little green there. These are off a Kawasaki, I think like 250, 150 something. These are 34 millimeters. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. Well, do correct me if I'm wrong, but 34, 32 millimeters, and these are about 2 millimeters smaller. So I had to remount the insides of these, cut grooves in them to fit these larger bolts, because you have to have a tight tolerance in here. They build them really close so that the stock threads will not thread, so you'll have to drill them out. Took about 2 hours to do all that. Handlebars, normal handlebars. I've been through a couple times crashing down some big hills. I got some simple little guards and some gussets that I've cut out a CNC plasma cutter. These, they'll bend when you crash, but all you have to do is just reach like that and bend them out real quick. Cheap little throttle. It's worked out great. You always end up breaking throttle cables in here. There's a little C-shape. You'll always break them. Here's my kill switch, because on this bike, because of this pin right here on this bike, this bolt sheared off one night after I went to sleep. At about 2 a.m. it sheared off after everybody's at the house. I crashed. I was like knocked out for a couple minutes. Then I like got back up and I was like, what happened? So my kill switch got ripped off. This factory one, great kill switch by the way, got ripped off, so I couldn't reuse it. So I found a single wire here that comes out of the engine of my Predator 212 that has a torque converter kit on it. The belt's really worn out right now. But yeah, and conveniently enough, if you take this box off and you put a 212 on, you can fit your gas cap right through your frame. So yeah, that's really nice. Because of the kill switch and my CNC gussets, it actually went through here, and now I have a little switch there to turn on and off the bike, so that if it does whiskey throttle, you can easily check it. When you put a torque converter on these bikes, you must put a piece of 1-inch square tubing. Now, if I were to fix this and rebuild this, because the 1-inch square tubing on the ends here, it will crush in from your bolt cinching on it, I would box the ends in and cap them off. So that's more the front end of the bike. So everywhere on the bike's been welded once or twice. So my rear suspension design, I have cut it right here at the main pivot back there, and basically took the arms, drilled out a hole for 3/8, because I figured that should be plenty for this bike, and I ride my bike hard. And conveniently enough, I have foot pegs off a dirt bike, and using the main pivot bolt, I can bolt it there, welded another bolt here for the foot peg so that it's a flat plate. Goes right back up. These are actually for a sidecar mini bike. That's the only reason these tabs are on. I have a sidecar for this thing. Okay, and so I ended up chopping off the frame right about here to keep this main support. And there's two curved pieces for the seat here. And those curved pieces make up this support right here. That's where those curved pieces from the seat are. Now, if you do this, these are braces so that it doesn't crack. You will end up having cracks behind this plate here, right up top. So check that often. And after I did this, I never braced these. And that's why there's a slight bow in this. Because afterwards, I took a piece of angle, bent it because these got bent jumping it. I might have been having a little fun. Jumping it there. So these bent, so you want to put a piece of angle iron brace there before this. And I got two bent pieces to go up and around the engine so that engine can move forward and back all the way. My Predator's, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years old. No, it's only like a year old. And the choke here is really sloppy. Actually, it's tying up pretty decently. It usually vibrates back on its own, or you pull it back with your foot going up steep hills. But what ends up happening is if you pull choke back going up a steep hill, your bike dies. Big problem. Oh! Because you crash. So I have a little zip tie here, loose enough that it holds it forward, but then you can still take it off and actually use choke. This Predator, I've recently never had to use a choke. Today I had this thing flipped upside down. It was draining oil out of the carburetor, everything. Flipped it over, waited like 20 seconds. First pull, starts right up. This engine's been very good to me. Another thing is with rear suspension, I put this bar here for side-to-side support so it doesn't tweak like this. I do not recommend this. This was a bad move, but learn something new every day. I would, if I did this again, I would bend a bar out here, move it back some, like, because this scissors piece have 1/2 inch that's threaded into the pipe here. Well, not threaded, but sleeved in and welded on top. If I did this again, I would bend this pipe back and put the bar back here because it will hit up here on your, what's it called? It will hit up here on your support for your seat, which the seat is just some flat bar that has been moved back, and it's just in this groove right here. Day 2 of the build. We got the custom seat mocked up. All the supports in for the seat mount, the truss there. Super simple seat, not too crazy or anything. Not complicated at all. The shocks, I have a plate on this side, plate on that side. It worked great. I do not have any tensioners for the axle because on this side, when you do all this suspension work, because I get about 4 or 5 inches travel. We've never tested it, but it's a lot of travel back here. So you have to restrain the chain because these pivots, at the time, I didn't know this when I built this, but I'm not an engineer. At the time, I put the pivots down here thinking it would release chain slack. The pivot has to be in line with this. So if you come look at this bike over here, we move the pivot up higher, which the chain slacks out less through its travel. So you want the pivot as in line with your torque converter as possible. And so on this bike, we made a chain guide with just a piece of 1 inch square tubing. The chain fits through it perfectly. We run 40 chain on our sprockets, even though it's actually not the right size for these specific sprockets. We've ran them on all the bikes for easily 2 years now. That's our oldest bike right there. Still runs strong. It's just hardtail. But yeah, if I redid this, I'd move the pivot point as high as possible to keep in line with that. But my chain guide, because of all this slacking, because it slacks out a lot, I have a little square here that makes it go in line there so it can't move off or in anywhere. And I have a piece of 1-inch angle, or 1-inch square tubing that I cut the top off. And now it sleeves over this so that the chain cannot move side to side on or off the sprocket. Also, the only way the chain can physically fall off now is if the top gets so slacked it can push off. But that occasionally will happen, like if I don't keep the chain tight like it is right now, if like it's loose at max dropout, because through the travel it gets slacker and looser. But that's one thing that I have built. Foot pegs have been moved back, of course, because the stock ones, they weren't cutting. I have an ankle brace here because this has cracked many times on me. Very smart bracing here. I have a piece of 1/2-inch rod here. That's a little overkill. I ride my bike insanely hard. I probably should just have a dirt bike, but I'm working with what I got. I have a little skid plate here on the front end. Now, if you run knobbier tires like this on the stock setup with this skid plate that I built, it will rub the skid plate. It's never bothered me. I used to jump this thing with it rubbing. It rubs. It's not a big deal, but if you put some really knobby snuff tires on it, these are snuff 19x7-8s. Stock Predator motor, nothing done to it. It's just a workhorse. Just paint it up, make it look a little nicer. But this is 1/2-inch with some 1/4-inch plates running out to a bolt shaft drilled out for the specific size. Pretty much that's about it for this bike here. Oh, the front end, because the stock bearings are for a 3/4 axle, and these shock tubes were drilled out for 3/8. So there wasn't enough aluminum here to actually run a 3/4 axle through it, so I couldn't drill it out to 3/4. So what I did was drill it out to 1/2-inch, built some 1/2-inch sleeves that were 1/2-inch in the center, and on the outsides were about 3/4. Pressed them into the bearings, and then built some custom spacers for this suspension system. I'm getting around 7 inches of travel, I believe. Not too bad. I've raised the ground clearance up by chopping the frame in half. From here, I chopped it, rotated the entire thing down, so that the height between the engines is very low. As you can tell on this bike, over here, the frame is very high. It goes up as much as possible to keep the low departure angle. As you can tell, both tires are massively off the ground. This bike has around 7 inches of ground clearance. This bike is around, give or take, I'd say about 13 at ride height. This bike has around 13 inches of ground clearance at ride height. That's in the back, and the front is actually higher because I have more travel. What you do need to consider is if you do a front end or rear end job, it's going to raise your entire frame up, as we just did on that bike, and make your head tube angle steeper, which will cause small bump sensitivity at high speeds worse. But for jumping, it will allow the travel to move up way smoother throughout the travel. I have mine set very slack. I've stretched this bike out to 64 inches from hub center
46.
to hub center. Huh?
46.
Oh, 46. I'm so sorry.
46 inches.
Yeah. 46 inches from middle axle. The stock bike over there, with mid-range on the chain tension, is around 41 inches. A Baja Warrior 200 mini bike here. This one's been heavily modified, but stock, it was about 47 inches. Right now,
It's about 48 inches, roughly.
It's been stretched a little. Baja's mini bikes, they have a little bit of a ground clearance issue. They're only like 9 inches or so.
They're like 4 inches or 5 inches on a good day, and that's with not rebuilding your front shocks.
Yes. So if you're gonna do all these modifications, highly concerned on the stock mini bike, you need to brace here. We have a plate because this breaks all the time. Like actually on the bike right now, there's a crack there. I'll inform the owner of this bike. So brace. Got some real good work done on the mini bike tonight, you know. Got the whole rear swing arm looking beauty down there. Got the new shock design. The seats like that for extra ground clearance. Foot pegs are upside down so that when you're standing on them, they'll bend the other way. Really good designs here. I really like the slack head angle tube. It's looking great. Then look at this piecer here. Look at that garbage. Mine's so much better than that piece of crap.